and welcome to Connected Conversations for Creatives. I'm your host, Jennifer Carr, and I am overjoyed to just be able to introduce to you Leah Shaffer. She is a writer, an author, a resource creator, which is, in my opinion, one of the best things for authors to be able to do, just to be able to produce the resources that other authors need and will benefit from. I connected with Leah through TikTok. It's funny. That seems to be my new network maker. Like I refused for the longest time to get on TikTok, and now it's like all of my friends and connections have been made through that app. So at least there's some benefit from the time waster that I find myself on sometimes. And I was just drawn to her personality, and honestly, her platform she uses to help other writers. Like she tells us what works for her, what doesn't work for her, and she gives us a good starting point for some of the ways to become a better writer, to hone your skills and that kind of thing. And so I thought, we're going to have a conversation. Like, I'm going to reach out and I want to have a conversation with her. So with that being said, Leah, just thank you for being here, and taking time out of your morning to just kind of hang out. Tell us about you. Tell us what you want us to know about you, what you do in your free time, what you're working on, your book, all that good stuff. Tell us.
Okay, well, that was a really nice introduction. Thank you.
I mean it, every word.
That's nice. And thanks for letting me be here. This is gonna be fun. So I'm a wannabe writer, like a lot of people out there. You know, I want to write a book and sell a book. Maybe not sell a ton of books, but I haven't done that yet. And like, that's my goal. And I've been trying for so long. And I finally think, we'll see, right? That I found something that works for me and I wanted to share it. So that's why I started selling the worksheets on Etsy, about like plotting worksheets, and then started doing TikToks. And same thing, like I love TikTok now. At first I was like, I didn't even want my kids on TikTok, and now I'm like, did you see the latest, like this funny TikTok? So yeah, I love it. It's great.
It is, and it's such a tool that you can use if done correctly. Now I will say, social media it can be for the birds if you're not careful. Like, it can take you down some rabbit holes that you really don't want to go down. But when you find your niche, when you find your people, your tribe out there,
tribe,
like,
yep.
yes, it can be so beneficial. You can learn from so many people what to do and what not to do.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And everything, that's the thing about the worksheets and stuff. Not everything works for everyone. There are so many good ways to write a book, or, you know, to become an artist, or whatever your passion is. And, you know, one thing doesn't work for everyone. So it's nice to have all those options to see, well, how do you do it? And how do you know what I mean? So I really like it for that.
Absolutely. And I love, like, I have perused your Etsy shop so many times, and I love how many different kinds of worksheets that you have available in your shop. I created a character profile workbook that is based on a series that I teach called Psychology and Writing. And it's all about how to develop your characters using psychology so that you have more realistic and relatable characters. And I created this workbook just knowing that there are authors out there who could use a way to keep up with their characters' personality traits, their family history, and just all of these things. How did you decide to start creating your worksheets? Like, what was that one thing that made you go, I can do this for somebody else?
I made them for myself. And I think I said this on TikTok, but I read so many books and so many blog posts and listened to so many vlogs about writing. And what would happen is I'd read a book and I'd be like, I know how to write a book now. I'd learn from it and be like, okay, I got this. And then I'd try and write a book, and I couldn't translate what I read in the book to the page. I was failing. And I thought I knew what I was doing. And so that's what prompted me to be like, okay, how can I synthesize all this information that I have about how to write a book? Because it was a lot, you know, some stuff's useful, some stuff not. And I was like, how do I synthesize it for myself, you know, so that I can do a better job at plotting and writing a novel. And the first worksheet I did was the F-bombs worksheet, which is basically 4 bombs. Four bombs have to drop on your main character. And I wrote that out for myself, and I was like, this is the game changer for me. And then I was like, somebody else will benefit from this. So that's why I was like, I'm gonna put it on Etsy and just, you know, see what people think of it. So.
Yes, I love that, because if you don't see, and that's kind of like why you start writing a book, right? Like, you write the book you want to read. I started writing a book, one, because I wanted to know how it was going to end. Like, I had the story in my head. But two, there just weren't a lot of books out there that made me go, "Ooh, I want to read that book," because it wasn't the story I wanted to read. So I wrote the story I wanted to read. It's the same thing with the
Right. Yeah.
resources. You create the resources that
Now,
you
let me
need.
ask you though, because I should have looked into this maybe
No, you're
before we
fine.
did this podcast, but where do you sell your character worksheet and what's your book? Just out of curiosity.
So my character workbook is on, I have an Etsy store. It is the only thing in my Etsy store right now. Like, I've got several saved drafts of resources that I'm trying to put together to go with my psychology and writing. Just kind of, it's not even a course. Like, it's just, I put the videos out there on TikTok and on YouTube, and then there's some workbooks that are going to go along with it, I think, working on that. But the workbook that I do have available is on Etsy, but it's also on my website. And just as a side note for everyone that's listening, Leah's going to have all of her resources on sale 20% off right now on her Etsy store, and all of that's going to be in the show notes. How long is that 20% off going to run?
All of this month.
All month long. So you can go to her Etsy shop. Like I said, the link will be in the show notes. And then my book is called No Matter What. And it's the second one actually is coming out this year, but that one came out in October. I'm so excited.
Awesome.
Nervous sided is what I am. But yeah, so it came out last year in October. And that whole process is just kind of what led me here to be like, I need people to understand that there is a process to this, but you also need people on your team to help you get through this. Yeah. And so finding the resources to finish books, because sometimes you get caught up and you're like, I wish I had a breakthrough right now. And sometimes that one worksheet is what you need to work through that wall that you need to break through. And so
yeah, that is so true. I'm supposed to, and I should have my first draft done by this Friday. But I literally today I'm going to go back through my F-bombs worksheet for my own novel, just because I know something's not working and I need to go back to the plot and just be like, okay, where do I go from here? So
yes.
No, true.
How long have you been working on this novel?
Oh my gosh, it seems like forever. It's okay. I can't tell you. I probably started and deleted this book idea 4 times because I was like, nope, it's ridiculous. And I have this, I can't stop deleting things. I should just put them somewhere, but I'm like, no, it's not right. Delete. Because I knew, I was like, this isn't right. So for me to get to where I am now is like huge, yes. To have all the words and feel like my first draft is almost done. That's a big deal.
Oh my gosh. Yes. That I will never forget. Like, I literally woke up one day from a dream and I said, I need to know how this dream ends. And this was in 2021. And I was like, I need to know how this. So I sat down, and within the first couple of days I had, I don't know, it would probably be the equivalent of like 4 or 5 chapters just on the page. And so right. After a couple of days, I was like, hey, honey. And he was like, what? And I was like, I think I'm going to write a book. And he was like, okay, cool. Go right ahead. I love that. Like, I just had a random hair. And I mean, I have to say, he has been like my biggest cheerleader and supporter. I'm so glad for that. But he didn't question it. But I said, I'm going to do this. And so that first draft, like, there were a lot of backspaces. Like, there was a lot of delete button on that.
Yeah. Well, what would you say you struggled with the most? Like, what, as far as writing the book?
And this is okay. So this is something that I always have struggled with, is that I want perfection on the first try.
Yes,
yeah.
That's why I keep deleting.
Yes.
Like, nope,
and
delete.
Exactly. And so I hate editing. Like, that is not my specialty, like finding all the grammatical and stuff, but I want the idea perfect on the first go. And so not only do I struggle with wanting to delete everything, but also it slows me way down because I filter what's going to come out of my mouth or, onto the page, really, I guess, out of my brain onto the page. I filter. I'm like, I can't say that. I'm like, nobody else is reading it right now. It's just you. Like, just do it.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah, exactly. And so, all right. So that process probably, so I started in 2021 and then it came out October, 2022. So that was a full year of work that went into it from start to finish. And over that year, like, you learn a lot in that year of working through it and that kind of thing. I have to say that the one thing that I learned that was probably the biggest lesson for me was you have to have a plan going into it. Like, nobody tells you that you have to have a plan for the writing and the marketing and the scheduling and all of that stuff. Right. Yeah. There's a lot to go with it.
There is a lot. And same for the book. I think that's why I did the worksheets, because I was a pantser before and I was writing unsuccessful drafts, right? That weren't any good. And I was like, no, I need to plot. And I think these people out there that are pantsers are probably readers, and they just instinctively know how to plot, how the plot should go. But I wasn't like that. I mean, I was like a, energetic kid running around. I didn't do much reading as a child. So I don't think I knew just plot and structure. And so that was something I really had to learn, on my own, instead of like a lifetime of reading. And I think that's the two. Like, if you ask me how, like, what are the things you need to be a writer? I think you've got to know plot and structure. However, like, however you got to learn it. Maybe you already know it. You're a big reader, and you have to sit your butt in the seat and write it. And that's the hardest part. I mean, it really is.
Yes, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
And that is so funny. And fortunately, there, like, I have found myself, I am a pantser. Like, there is no question about it. I'm a pantser.
Plotting, were you a reader? Were you a reader?
Oh, yes.
Oh, see, that's the difference. I think that's the difference. Yeah.
It's
I'm
a huge
not
difference
anymore. Now I'm a plotter.
And good for you for figuring that out, because it's so easy to think I'm just going to sit down and write a book and I don't need anything. I just need to sit down and put the words on the page. No, like, there's a lot that goes into writing a book that you have to consider. But I am definitely a pantser when it comes to writing, and like, outlining stuff gives me hives.
That's funny. No, not me. And I got to do it several different times throughout this process.
I love that. So do you work full time aside from writing?
No, this is it. In fact, I have 2 kids in college. They're both in Texas Tech in Lubbock. That's about 8.5 hours away from me right now. I know, right? And they're not coming home for spring break. Spring break is next week. And I'm like, y'all, come on.
Rude.
And I know. I have 3 dogs, and I love dogs, and I love pickleball. But most of my time is like writing and reading about writing and trying to do TikToks and help other people and working on worksheets and, things like that. So that's my day.
I love that. This is my full-time gig too. Like, my kid, she's finishing 8th grade, and she's homeschooled. And so that's my real full-time job
too, though. Yeah. Yeah.
But I do love the freedom of being able to sit down and just to be in my imagination all day.
I feel so lucky that my husband is supportive and very nice.
Exactly. Like, what would we do without them? Shout outs to supportive husbands. Like,
exactly, right? So true. So true.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So what is probably the hardest lesson or the most beneficial lesson, whatever you want to share, over the last year that you've had to learn in this process?
I think honestly, I might be learning it right now, because like I said, I finished a lot of quote unquote novels of my own. And in the past, I would finish the first draft or finish the story and probably go and share it with someone and say, oh, I wrote a book. Like, would you read this book? What do you think of this book? And now I'm just about to finish my first draft. Friday, probably I should be done with it. And I know that it's not done. I know it's nowhere close to done. I know it's a hot mess. And I think that, I think learning how to plot was probably what really helped me. But just knowing that is like, it just feels huge for me. I just feel like, oh man, before I would have a quote unquote finished piece of work and not really know how to go back into it, not really know how do I fix it and make it, like a real book. I mean, let's forget about the writing, just talking about plot and structure and story and, character arc and stuff like that. And so I think that for me now, I'm like, wow, this is a huge realization to me, that I can't just give you this first draft. You know what I mean? Because in the past I would say, oh, this first draft is not good, but read it anyway. But I don't think I really knew how bad it was. You know what I mean? Back then. And now I'm like, oh, I do. I feel like I do. So nice. That's the biggest.
And that's a good realization to have. And this is my first go. So with the first book, I had family and friends just kind of be like, hey, I wrote a book, and they were like, oh, can we read it? And I'm like, yes, but you're sworn to secrecy, and like, I need feedback. I need honest feedback. Well, of course, they're family and friends, and they're like, it was so good. And I was like, yes, thanks. And that makes you feel good, warm and fuzzy. But I think one of the biggest and best investments I made, and I will tout this from the mountaintops, that get a good developmental editor if you're not sure. Like, find someone who will go through it and walk through those plot holes with you, and that kind of thing. Because I don't think I had too many plot holes necessarily, but there were some like continuity issues that I got caught up in, and my editor was like, hey, maybe go check this out. And I'm like,
Right.
oh yeah.
What happened to Brian? He was in the first, he was in the first chapter and now he's gone. Oh, right. Okay.
I love that you even use that name, because he is totally one of my characters, and
Oh,
something did happen to
that's hilarious.
That's did happen to Brian, and
that's funny.
That is hilarious. But yeah, like invest in somebody who, even if you have to pay them to go through it with like, don't let the plot fall apart, because that's what keeps your readers engaged. You can have a happily ever after, and you can have a steamy romance, whatever you want to do, but like if that plot falls apart, people are not going to come back for book 2.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think another place where I used to fall down in the beginning is that I would have a really good what if question, like what if somebody turned into a vampire or a mermaid or whatever, and I was like, ooh, this is really exciting, but all of my books lacked a problem, like a story problem that was specific to the main character and that the main character had to solve by the end of the book. I mean, it was all just very, very vague, and now I'm like, okay, I need a very specific problem, and it's got to be specific to my main character. That was something I think, and I'm still probably working on it. I'm still not, I have a problem for my main character right now in my book, but I'm like, is this tight enough? Is this specific enough for this main character? You know what I mean? So that's something I probably still struggle with, but if you read some of my old books, oh my goodness, I really struggle with that.
But if you see improvement, then you're doing something right. Yes, you're learning through the process. And so I think that's huge, to be able to look back. And that is something that I said about, this is my first time to use official beta readers, like the ones who they're getting a hold of it before the editor gets a hold of it. Now, granted, my editor...
Are they friends? Are you paying them, or?
They are not. I did. And it's really funny. Like, I literally sent out in my newsletter and on my Facebook profile and all that stuff on my page. I said, hey, I am trying something new this go around. If you've never heard of a beta reader, here's what they are. They help you with the developmental stuff. So one, you can save a little bit of money on the editing if you really, it's kind of like a job interview. Like, there's a whole form that I had them fill out, and I needed to know their background in reading, and because some people, they're just nosy, they just want to read the book before everybody else has a chance to read the book.
And if you're writing fantasy, you want someone who reads fantasy that
yes,
exactly, so that they aren't like, there's too much description and too many elves or whatever,
right. It's like, no, if that's what you're writing, that's what people live for in that genre. And that was it. So I had they had to fill out their forms, and then we kind of did like side interviews on email, like back and forth, just to kind of be like, okay, let me clarify with you on this. So they had to go through a process, and I ended up with 7, which, I don't want so many voices in my head telling me this, that, and the other, because I'm sorry, my book is not for everybody. It is what it is. And you can't write for everybody. Like, you just can't.
Most books aren't for everybody. Yeah.
They're not, like, I have a very diverse palette when it comes to reading. Not everybody does. And so, this go around with these beta readers, I've already gotten a few responses back, and I appreciate their feedback greatly, because it allows me to go back and see it through a reader's eyes. But also at the same time, so far, everyone has said this is better than the first one. And I'm like, that makes me feel better. And it makes me want to go back and rewrite the first one, but I won't.
I feel like that's typical, right? Like, I keep telling my husband's like, when are you going to make money on these books? And I'm like, probably when I write 5. When I write and publish 5 books, that's when I'll make money. Because this first one, I do not expect it to be amazing. I just want it to be a complete story and free of as many typos as possible.
That's amazing. Yeah. And it's amazing the confidence boost you get from just getting that first one out there, because even the hard to read feedback is beneficial. Like, nobody likes criticism, or constructive or otherwise, but it's also beneficial because you're like, oh, okay, I see what needs to happen the next go around.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like, I'm not really, I think I'm very aware of my skill level as a writer and as a plotter, and you know what I mean? And so I don't even think, we'll see when I get there, but I'm not even sure I will have a hard time with getting feedback, because I know I'm still learning. I feel really comfortable with that. And I feel like, most people, you should, like, it's okay. It's okay if your first book, second book, third book isn't wonderful. If you're still trying to learn and get better and write a better story and engage people in a different way, in a good way, I think you should feel good about that, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Well, and
that goes for all art. Like if you're painting, if you're
yes.
whatever you're doing, like I think people, we're just way too hard on ourselves. We expect so much from ourselves, you know, and we just need to like do the best we can. You know, that's all we can do.
Yes. Well, and I think sometimes a lot of that stems from that whole, and I'm doing a whole episode on imposter syndrome. It's coming up, but like we look at other people and we compare ourselves, and that comparison game will kill the heck out of any creative,
Yeah.
you know, the streak that you may be on. And so I get caught up in my own head and want to compare, be like, well, my story was as good as theirs. Well, you know what? My story will resonate with the people it's meant to resonate with. And I don't need to try to write for everybody, because like we said, it's not, you can't.
Yeah. Well, and I'm reading this book now. I think it's called Writing the Blockbuster Novel by Albert Zuckerman.
Okay.
And it's basically talking about how to write a blockbuster, right? How to write a book that sells, you know, tons of copies and is in the bestseller list, and they make a movie out of it and whatever. And a couple of the things he says are, you need, you know, a high concept idea, something that everyone's going to be interested in. You need it to be interesting to men and women. You need it to be interesting to people who have money, because a hardcover book is expensive. You know, you need it to have more than one point of view. So like he suggests 4 points of view. And the fact of the matter is, this is all great advice, but I'm not there yet. I'm not going to be capable as a writer to write a book that has 4 points of view. I will get lost. Imagine. No. So you just have to be like, you know what? That ain't me. I'm going to write a smaller book for a smaller group of people, and that's okay. You know?
Right. And when you find your readers, like when you hit that target market, when you find your audience, they're going to keep coming back to you, and then they're going to tell their friends, you know, which, you know, your friends are going to have similar opinions and tastes and things, and then they're going to tell their friends, and then that's how you kind of grow your community of readers.
Your audience.
Yes, exactly. Because good gracious, I can't imagine 4 points of view. Like I struggle with 2.
I'm doing 1, and I'm like, 2 would even be too much for me right now. Like baby steps.
Jeez Louise, no. And you know what? I don't need a blockbuster. You know, I write because I love writing. I write because I love telling stories and getting lost in my imagination. And maybe somebody else will appreciate what came out of my imagination as well. But but I have that freedom, you know, I have that ability to say, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And so
very lucky. We're very lucky.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've kind of talked about your book, but not really. Like, what's your genre? What are you writing?
I'm writing right now you know what? It's funny because I started out as a YA vampire book, and then it started like there was a little too much romance in there. Not anything like spicy, but I was like, okay, this is moving from cute YA to a little bit more. So now it's basically like a romance, a vampire romance, which I know. I mean, even saying that out loud, I'm like, oh goodness. But that's, you know, that's where I'm at right now.
That is a rabid audience. That is a rabid audience. Those people like vampire romances, when you find your people, like they will eat it up. Like that is
right. Let's hope so. We'll see.
I love it. That's awesome. So big into fantasy and that kind of thing. Do you ever see yourself writing outside of that?
You know, when I first started writing, it was way back. When was chick lit like really popular? Like that's early when I started
2000s?
Writing. Yes. Okay. And I started writing chick lit because I was probably in my 30s or maybe late 20s, and it just was appropriate. But I really wasn't very good at that. And so, I mean, because you do have to have some like level of heat in those kinds of, and I was just like, oh, this is embarrassing for everyone involved. I cannot do this. So then I started trying to write YA. And I think what happened was, you know, I am 48 years old, and I've been trying to write YA because I mean, I don't even really know why, but, and I'm realizing I'm too old for that. I don't know the lingo anymore. I don't even know how to use my phone. You know what I mean? So I was like, you gotta, so the switch to like writing for an older audience, I think is a good one, because I'm not, you know, I thought I could write YA, but no. So I think I've moved from chick lit to a YA thing, and now to I don't know if I'm gonna stick with the romance, but I do like the sci-fi element. Most of my things, I wrote a book once about giant roaches. I've written about like a mermaid. So like I think that fantasy is probably where I'm gonna stick.
I love that. I love that. So I mine is kind of like a romantic suspense, I guess, but it's a
Oh, nice.
closed door. Like there's like I don't
Right.
write spice because I just that's not my audience for one. But
Yeah.
I just it would be embarrassing if I tried. Like it would be.
Oh, it was. Yeah, in the chicklet books, I was like, I wrote it and I was like, read it back and I was like, oh, delete, delete, delete. Nobody can ever see this. This is terrible. Like I
Never
was
gonna see the light of day.
I wrote it. Yeah, I was like, no, we're moving on. No more chicklet.
But you know what? There's that audience is also like they are also a whole
And it's a
that's a
money
whole
maker.
different world.
And
It is
it's
a
a
money
money
maker.
maker, you know, but I
Yes.
just couldn't, I could never do it. No,
No,
not me.
and I think your book will be the best when you write what you know and what you are comfortable writing. If you try to write something that's not you, I think you will find very quickly that your book will not be the best book it could be.
Yeah, and I think when I was younger, the YA, like I thought that I had to write YA because you know that your main character has to have like a big want and a big need and big feelings, and you want that to be conveyed to your reader. So because I knew that, where are the big feelings? Well, with YA, right? Teenagers have huge feelings. So I think that's where I was like, I'm gonna write YA because I can write these big feelings. But now I'm realizing you can write big feelings for grown-up people too. So
Absolutely. Well, I mean,
yeah.
that is how humans create connection is through emotion.
Mhm.
You know, that's
Yeah,
how we
yeah.
form our friendships and all of our relationships is through emotions. And it's really like I just love how sometimes things just kind of come together and flow together. But I'm doing one of my next psychology and writing is about how to write realistic big emotions because we need emotions and we need them to be sometimes larger than life, but we don't want them to be caricatures. You know, we don't want to make
Right.
people
Yes.
look
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Melodrama. We don't want melodrama. We just
Yeah, you know, you need
yeah.
your characters. Yeah, they may be angry, and we need to show that they're angry, but let's show them really, really angry without them exploding. You know, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah. One,
I
I
love
love this.
that.
Yeah. And I love the, you know, especially in books where your main character is really angry, but then they act in a way that they're acting like they're not really angry or whatever. So I like that kind of thing too, where you're kind of playing with, okay, this is what's simmering underneath, but this is how they're going to act to everybody else. I love that kind
Oh,
of,
yeah. Well, because that's
you
what
know,
we do as humans, right?
yep,
That is how we
totally,
behave.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. So true.
You have to. You can't just explode on your boss. You may want to, but your boss needs to know one, you're upset, but two, I'm not going to let you see me upset.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
That's just a human
We
emotion.
don't want to be like a Karen. I mean, I know we've probably all been there.
Yeah, we are
but,
human and we slip up, but
right. But we don't
yes,
want to be there.
exactly. No, I love that. I've written, I've got like 5 different books in the works because I have ideas that pop into my head and I write them down and I'll start on them and then I put them to the side. I know it's so bad, but they're in all sorts of genres. And I'm like, can I make that work? I don't know if I can make that work because one of them is it's like an urban fantasy of sorts. And I'm like, I don't know. That's a
I think
playground
you
that I'm
can.
not
No,
familiar with.
I think you can in today's like, you know, like publishing world where you can just publish it yourself. I think you can write in multiple genres. I mean, I think that, you know, you can kind of do what you want. I feel like
Oh,
because you
well,
don't
and
know what
I
people are
agree.
going to like. You know, you don't know what people are going to really like that I mean, you could write 5 books and the one you think is the worst one, people love it. You know, you just don't know.
This is true. This is true. So, all right. So, speaking of self-publishing, is that the route you think you're going to go, or are you going to try to hit up a traditional publisher?
You know, I don't know because I don't really, I would like to maybe write a book on how to write a book or sell these
Mm,
worksheets. I'm not a sitter. Like I'm a more energetic person. I like talking to people, and writing is a really lonely space
you're
sometimes.
right.
You know, you're
Mhm.
just by yourself in your head typing things out. So I don't really think about, I don't know what I'm gonna do. You know, whatever. I'll probably just like put it on Kindle. What is it, Kindle Vella?
Kindle
Is that,
Vella, yeah.
yeah, just to put it out there because it's not really the finished product that I'm super concerned with. I want to learn, I want to see if what I know now can bring a book, you know, into the world and then use what I know to help other people write books. You know what I'm saying? So
I do.
I don't really care too much about the finished product. I just want to do it, quote unquote, right. You know what I mean? Which
When
I'm
you
sure that's
figure out,
very
well, when you figure out what is right, you need to write that book because you
right.
will be
Yeah.
a millionaire.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Oh
But
my
yeah, so
gosh, I
I
would
don't, I
love
mean,
it.
the answer is I don't know. I'll probably just put it, whatever's easiest is probably what I'll do. I'll just,
I gotcha.
you know,
Well, I will
what,
tell you that there are pros and cons to both directions, I think. I went self-publishing because I spent too many months getting rejected by the publisher or the agent that I was querying after query after query, and I was tired of getting the rejection emails. And I went, I can do this by myself. And I will
well,
say that
and make more money potentially,
in a
you know, right?
way,
I
yes.
feel like I mean, you don't know what's going to take off or whatever. My friend just did something like publishing rocket or something like that, where she found out the keywords that are supposed to be used for selling. That's not the name of this, so don't even, but look
Okay.
into that. And I'll probably look into that too whenever if I ever finish my book, because it tells you what keywords to put on Amazon, and then like where there's a ton of competition, right? So you don't want to be there, you want to pick a different keyword or whatever. So I thought that was super helpful. So if I do self-publish, I will probably do something like that. And if
Let
I
me
ever
tell you.
figure out what the name of it is, I'll text it to you.
Yeah, send it to me. Yeah. Because let me tell you, like Amazon and those keywords, that is one of the hardest parts, is trying to target your market, and just keywords in general, like the search engine
Oh,
optimization
it's
and that kind of
crazy.
thing.
Yeah.
Like I grew up with technology. Like I'm in that in between generation where we had technology, but it keeps changing so fast, and the requirements
Yes.
for it, that I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to understand how easy it is to get lost in the technology of things. Because
Yeah.
like
It's crazy. So much. There's so much. Too
so
much.
much. And I actually, Brian Cohen does an excellent, he's on TikTok, but he's also on Facebook. He does an excellent Amazon ads. It's like a 5-day Amazon ads quick course, and it's free. Like he does the 5 days for free, and then you can pay to kind of narrow down your target and that kind of thing. But it was very useful just to kind of see how keywords on Amazon really works. And I'm hoping, like, I've got him on my list of people to be like, don't you want to come talk on my podcast about this? It'd be great.
Oh, that's
Because
good. Yes.
I
Yeah.
could really use a little more information, and so could other people, I think.
Right. Exactly. It's really beneficial. I mean, it's huge in indie publishing. You really need to know where to put your book.
Well, and what's really scary, I don't know if you've seen all the drama surrounding Amazon and self-publishing, like with Kindle
Yeah.
Unlimited
Yep.
and that kind of thing. Like, I haven't had issues with it, but I also followed a very specific pattern when it came to putting my book on Amazon. Like, I went and got the advice that I needed for how to not traditionally, but to globally distribute as well as Amazon distribute. And I did because there's a process that you have to go through. Also, I don't think my book has ended up on any pirated sites, but you have to be careful with Amazon, apparently. Like, they can.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't know who's gonna try and pirate it,
I mean, I would never consider it. I can't imagine, like, just being like, oh, here, let me put somebody else's work out there. But I guess there are people who feel that
Yeah.
that's their
Yeah.
right.
Crazy. Yeah, it's
It is
crazy.
crazy. It's kind of scary. All right. Well, what else? If there was like one resource that you could point people to that you have found extremely useful, a podcast, a book, a
Okay.
blog, whatever.
Yeah, okay. I have like my top books. Okay.
Mhm.
I love Save the Cat Writes a Novel. If you don't want to read all of Save the Cat Writes a Novel, because it is a lot, then try just Save the Cat by Blake Snyder and just read the first 100 pages, because even though it's for screenwriters, it's super helpful, and it's a condensed version of Save the Cat Writes a Novel, because that's where it came from.
Okay.
Great stories don't write themselves. If you've read that book, that's great. That taught me about plotting in quarters, which is a great and much easier way to plot. And then if you're gonna buy my worksheets, I would get the F-bombs worksheet. It's like $2.99, probably, now it's on sale. Or if you're really new to plotting, I would say get my plotting worksheets.
Mhm.
I think it's like plotting a novel worksheets, and there's like, I don't know, there's quite a few pages in that thing, but that's like some very basic step-by-step questions that'll ask you for how to plot your novel.
Nice.
Also, if you're writing romance, Romancing the Beat is a good book to read. It's very, very short, and you probably can't just use Romancing the Beat. You probably need to use like Save the Cat or something else, because it's just very short. But it is good information for writing romance. And then there's another one. It's like, of course, I should have grabbed it. It's like, I think it's called like Take Your Pants Off. Take Your Pants Off. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. There's something
Okay.
like that.
I love it.
And it talks about plotting in a way that just talks about just do your character arc. Do not even think about your plot, what you want to happen. Only think about your character arc first, and then plug the plot in to that, which that helped me tremendously, because especially for something like you, for like psychology, I think that would be really, really
Yes.
beneficial, because it talks about like, what do you want? Do you want your main character to go from fearful to courageous? And if you do, what things might happen, in that arc, and how could you get them there? Where would they start out? So if they're fearful, what does the setup look like? What are they afraid of? How do they act? What kind of person are they? What's their backstory? Why are they afraid? Then go to the courageous, and what kind of actions do courageous people do? Like what kind of actions would they take? And then push in a plot into that, because the main thing is character arc. Like, that's why people come to story, the empathy for the main character. So that one was a really good one. I hope I got the name right. But I think it is. It's like Take Your Pants Off. It's something weird. It's a very short book too.
Nice.
But those are like, if I had to be like, tell someone you should write a book, this is where you should start, any of those I feel like are really good resources.
That's awesome. I love that. And you're right. Like, to me, character building is like the key to a good book. Like, that's for me, like, I want to be able to put myself in that book as your main character in some form or fashion. Yeah.
Yeah. And I even, and I have another worksheet that, not to be like all sales pitchy, but
No, do it.
for me. So like, I do think they're not going to work for everybody, but I feel like I used to teach second grade, and I was used to breaking things down very simply for second graders, and that's what my brain needs as well. So that's how I made the worksheets, right? But so we're for the I think it's called the Build a Better Protagonist worksheet, and basically and it might be similar to what you have on your website, because I'm basically saying, what I start with the ending, really. What does your main character look like at the end, and what are adjectives that describe your main character at the end of the book? Are they strong, courageous, surrounded by friends, or what's going to happen at the end? And then what are the opposite of those adjectives? And that's where your main character should start. Like, whatever that, timid or fearful, that's how you write your setup. That's how you write your first couple of scenes in order to get to that arc. So I think I
love that.
Right, because it's like, I need the step-by-step thing. So that's a very step-by-step. Well, what do you want your character to look like at the end? What's the opposite of that in adjectives? And then go from there.
I love that. And I love that your worksheet is, and your resources, they're a little different from mine. Mine it's got like 100, or it's more than 100 different touch points. And it's literally like, so you can keep track of what color did I say my character had at the beginning, all the way down to what are they looking for in a soulmate? Because I'm telling you, like, there was in book one, I did have somebody call me out. They're like, I thought he had blonde hair. And I was like, you're right. He did at the beginning. He had blonde hair, and then I kind of shifted. So like, you have to keep track of that. But but like, I love to be able to work backwards, because some people's brains work like that. They work it from the end to the beginning, or the beginning to the end. Like, we're all different. And so like, don't think you're being salesy. Like, you are offering resources for people to better themselves as writers and authors and storytellers.
Yeah, and I've been there. I'm still there. I'm still learning. You know what I mean?
You should be. We all should be. Like,
so
there are very few people who, like, they master the art of writing and they never get better. Like, I think even the most seasoned authors, their next book should be better than the last one. You know, like, it's
that's totally true. And I'm ashamed to admit it, but I haven't read all the Harry Potter books, but I heard that she got better. I know. It's shocking. I haven't seen any of the movies.
You're not missing anything else. I'm one of those people. The movies you don't need.
Okay, good. But I heard she got much better by the end, like, as far as her writing and like weaving the story together. So it's not just
world building, and like, it is a process, and you should absolutely always get better. But it's okay to also use the same tools that can help you get better, because you'll see time and time. It's like a good, that's right. It's like a good cast iron skillet. The more you use it, the better it is. Like, those tools just really get better.
Yes, so true, so true.
That's hilarious. I love it. And oh my gosh, like, this, we could sit here and talk all day long, because I think that there's just so much out there to kind of talk about when it comes to writing. But
Yes, there really is
I'll
so
let you
much.
go. I mean, and I don't have all the answers, right? Like I am not, this is not a world that I've been in my whole life. It's a world that I kind of picked up on a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So my goal is just to be like, hey, let's share the love and let's help each other along.
Yeah, because really there are so many of us. I mean, like I consider myself a wannabe writer, and there are a lot of people out there that feel like they have a book in them and they don't know what to do. They don't know where to go or how to start. So I think this is great.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I'm excited. And I guess along those lines, like if you are a wannabe writer, tell your story, put it on paper. It doesn't have to be perfect the
Yeah,
first run through. Just get the
agreed.
story out there, and then you find people who are willing to, to cheer you on and root you on along the way and be like, hey, let me help you invest in that story so that you can tell the best story possible.
Right. Yeah. And get on TikTok. I'm at Perfect Plot on TikTok. It's purr like a cat. But there's so much good information there from
Yes.
all sorts of writers, wannabe writers, real writers, if you want to call them that can help you and teach you tons of good stuff that will benefit you and make you a
For
better writer.
free.
I love it there. Yes, for free. Exactly.
Yeah, like absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me just remind everybody that the resources that we mentioned, I will go through, even the names of the books that you mentioned. I'm going to put them in the show notes so that everybody can find them. There's going to be a link to Leah's Etsy store where, remember, everything's 20% off for the month
Well,
of
thank you.
March. So do not miss that. Those resources, they're there for a reason, and they are affordable for a reason. So go use them and become a better writer, and to invest in your craft, because if you're not going to invest in it, then you're going to waste time. Just invest in making
Yeah.
yourself a better
Yeah.
writer.
And I mean, I really do think you can do it. I tell
Yes.
everybody, like, if you have a book in you, I really believe you can do it. It just takes knowing plot and just sitting down and doing the work.
Do
If
the
you're willing to
work.
do the work, yeah, then you can do it. So
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to leave our listeners with these words. And I was kind of just thinking through our conversation, and I just jotted this thought down. And it goes, every learning experience, no matter how difficult, is an opportunity for growth. So embrace it, learn from it, and use it as a stepping stone to move forward towards your dreams. Like, you just have to embrace every learning experience out there, whether it's listening to a podcast, reading a book, hearing from other authors or writers, creative people, whatever it is, embrace that and learn from it. And then just put your story on paper.
yes, well said. I like that. That's a good place to end it. Bravo.
Thank
And
you. And
thank you.
thank
And thank
you.
you for having me. This has been fun.
Yes, it has been fun. We should do it again sometime, whether we record it or not.
Great.
This is awesome. Well, in the meantime, everybody, go be creative, be authentic, and look for the opportunity to make an authentic connection.